The night before had been restless, the kind of night where the mind refuses to settle, haunted by shadows of the past. Elias Mercer sat alone in his tent, the flickering flame of a lone lantern casting long, wavering shadows over the faded maps and scattered notes that cluttered his small workspace. Outside, the desert wind whispered faintly, carrying with it the chill promise of dawn. Carefully, reverently, Elias unfolded a fragile letter, the edges worn and the ink faded almost to illegibility. It was a letter from his lost mentor, Drea. Samuel Hargrave, a man whose disappearance had fractured Elias's world and fueled the disillusionment that once threatened to end his career. The letter's weight in his hands was heavier than its thin paper suggested. Every word seemed etched with the urgency of a man who had glimpsed something extraordinary and terrifying. Elias, it began, if you are reading this, it means my warnings went unheeded, or worse, that I have become part of the very mystery I sought to unravel. The map is alive, a living testament to the world's origins, shifting with the dawn as if the earth itself breathes and dreams. But such power is a double-edged sword. I have seen forces moving in the shadows, hungry for its secrets. Trust no one but yourself and seek the truth with caution. Elias's fingers trembled slightly as he traced the faded script. Memories surged, long nights spent poring over ancient charts, arguments with colleagues who dismissed their research as folly, and the last expedition where Samuel had vanished without a trace. The letter was more than a message. It was a summons, a beacon in the encroaching darkness of doubt and despair. At first light, Elias packed the letter carefully into his satchel, alongside the living map, now marked with new pathways and symbols that had appeared overnight. He sought out Professor Harun Malik, the eccentric historian whose passion for lost civilizations had proven invaluable. Malik's cluttered tent was a sanctuary of dusty tomes and arcane artifacts, the scent of aged parchment thick in the air. Elias, Malik greeted him with a warm but distracted smile, his fingers stained with ink. "What new mysteries do you bring today?" Elias laid the letter and the mentor's journal on the table between them. "I found this last night. It's from Samuel Hargrave. I believe his disappearance is tied directly to the map's secrets." Malik's eyes widened as he carefully turned the brittle pages, revealing cryptic symbols and marginalia that matched those now appearing on the living map. "Remarkable," he murmured. "These annotations suggest he was on the verge of a breakthrough, but also that he feared for his life. The map is more than a guide. It's a key to something ancient and powerful." Together, they deciphered passages hinting at a hidden chamber, a place where the world's first dawn, its cradle, might be found. The symbols spoke of sacrifice and guardianship, and Elias felt the weight of his mentor's legacy settling upon his shoulders. Outside, a sudden storm broke, rattling the tent and whipping the desert sands into a furious dance. Elias sat motionless, the roar of wind and the crack of distant thunder mirroring the turmoil within him. Memories of past failures, of promises broken and trust betrayed, threatened to overwhelm his resolve. Yet the map lay beside him, its ever-shifting contours a reminder that the world was not static, and neither was he. The storm passed as quickly as it had arrived, leaving behind a sky streaked with pale pink and gold. Elias stepped outside, the cool air filling his lungs. Before him, the living map glowed faintly in the early light, a new path etched across its surface, one that seemed to beckon him onward. He knew now that the journey was no longer just about discovery. It was about honoring a legacy, confronting the shadows of the past, and embracing the uncertain future. With a deep breath, Elias folded the map carefully and set his gaze toward the horizon. The dawn was breaking, and with it, a renewed sense of purpose surged within him. "For you, Samuel," he whispered, "I will see this through." And with that vow, the path ahead, though shrouded in mystery and danger, felt just a little more certain. But the shadows that had claimed his mentor had not vanished. They lingered still, and as Elias turned back to his preparations, a cold certainty settled in his bones. The true test was only just beginning. The living map pulsed in his satchel, alive and unpredictable, as if aware that its guardian had awakened at last. And with every dawn, new secrets would call him onward, deeper into the shifting lands and the heart of the unknown. The legacy of the mentor was no longer just a memory, it was a guiding light. Elias Mercer was ready to follow it, no matter where it led. The air in the subterranean city was thick with dust and tension, every breath a struggle against the choking weight of impending violence. Elias Mercer stood at the heart of their fragile refuge, the ancient map spread on a stone slab before him, its surface shimmering faintly under the flickering torchlight. Outside, the rumble of General Victor Cross's forces grew louder, a relentless drumbeat pounding against the ancient walls that guarded this forgotten cradle of the world. "They're coming," Linador said, her voice low but steady as she crouched beside Elias, checking the ammunition in her rifle with practiced efficiency. Her sharp eyes never left the entrance to the cavernous chamber, where shadows danced amid the flickering flames of hastily lit braziers. Alice nodded, his gaze locked on the map's shifting patterns. The dawn had revealed a new transformation overnight, a complex web of symbols and pathways that seemed to pulse with hidden meaning. He traced the glowing lines with trembling fingers, desperate to decipher their secret before the siege overwhelmed them. "Professor Malik," Elias called, glancing toward the older man who was hunched over a collection of ancient tablets and inscriptions nearby. The archaeologist's graying beard was flecked with dust, his eyes alight with feverish intensity. "What do you make of this?" Malik adjusted his spectacles and leaned closer to the map, muttering under his breath as he compared the symbols with those on the relics. "These markings, they correspond to ancient defensive mechanisms," he said, voice rising above the distant clamor. "If we can unlock their meaning, we might be able to activate something to slow Cross's advance." Before Elias could respond, a sudden explosion shook the chamber, sending a shower of dust and small stones raining down. Lena sprang to her feet, weapon raised, eyes scanning the darkened entrance.
"They're breaching the outer defenses,"
Marco Elias called out. How long until they reached the inner sanctum? The local guide, a rugged man with sun-weathered skin and a wiry frame, was already moving toward the narrow passageways that twisted deeper into the city. "Minutes, at best. We need to hold them here." Jade Kim's voice crackled through the comm link, sharp and precise. "We've detected multiple enemy squads converging on your location. Reinforcements are en route, but ETA is uncertain." Elias swallowed hard, feeling the crushing weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. The map's shifting lines seemed to pulse faster now, as if aware of the danger closing in. He focused on the glowing symbols, each one a puzzle piece in the desperate race against time. The first wave of mercenaries burst through the outer gate, their boots pounding the ancient stone floors, weapons raised and eyes cold with ruthless intent. Lena met them head-on, moving with lethal grace as she fired precise shots that echoed through the tunnels. The clash was brutal and unyielding, the air thick with the sense of gunpowder and sweat. Elias returned to the map, muttering to himself as he connected symbols and traced pathways. "If I can just align these points."
"Yes, that's it."
Professor Malik joined him, voice urgent but calm. "The mechanism should activate a defensive barrier, an ancient force field of sorts. But it requires simultaneous triggers at multiple points within the city." "Then we split up," Lena said, catching her breath amid the chaos. "Marco and I will cover the eastern passage. You, Malik, and Jade handle the west. Elias, you stay here and keep decoding." "It's too dangerous," Elias protested, but the determined glint in Lena's eyes left no room for argument. As they scattered through the labyrinthine city, Elias remained anchored to the map, his mind racing to keep pace with its ever-shifting secrets. The walls trembled under the force of Cross's assault, the ground vibrating with each explosion and volley of fire. Suddenly, a sharp crack echoed behind him. He spun to see Captain Rourke leading a group of mercenaries down a side corridor, their advance methodical and deadly.
"Elias!"
Lena's voice crackled urgently in his earpiece. We re-holding them off, but they readapting faster than we can counter. Keep working on that map. With a grim nod, Elias returned to the glowing surface, the symbols dancing before his eyes. Time was slipping away like sand through his fingers, and the fate of the city, and perhaps the world, hung precariously in the balance. Outside, the siege raged on, a brutal symphony of destruction and defiance. But within these ancient stone walls, amidst dust and echoes of forgotten civilizations, Elias Mercer fought not just for survival, but for the very secrets of existence itself. As the first light of dawn began to seep through cracks in the cavern ceiling, the map pulsed with renewed intensity. Elias's heart pounded in rhythm with its glow. The final pieces were falling into place, but so were the shadows closing in. "Hold fast," Elias whispered, more to himself than anyone else. "The dawn will bring answers. Or the end." And with that, the battle for the map and the world's origin entered its most perilous hour. The night air was thick with unease, the kind that seeped into bones and whispered of fractures too deep to ignore. Our camp, hastily assembled on the edge of a rocky outcrop, felt less like a sanctuary and more like a pressure cooker ready to burst. Lena's voice cut sharply through the quiet, her words laced with frustration and disbelief. "Harren, you can't keep dismissing the practical risks for the sake of your theories. We're not here to chase myths. We're here to survive and protect the map." Harren Malik, ever the eccentric scholar, adjusted his glasses and countered with a thin smile, though his eyes betrayed the sting beneath. "And yet, Lena, without understanding the mythos, the map's power remains beyond our grasp. We need context, not just caution." The tension between them was palpable, the friction born from divergent priorities. Lena's pragmatism clashed violently with Malik's idealistic pursuit of knowledge. I watched, feeling the weight of responsibility pressed down on me heavier than ever. The fragile alliance we'd built threatened to crumble under this strain. Nearby, Marco Silva leaned against a boulder, his dark eyes scanning the flickering flames. Beside him, Jade Kim tapped nervously on her handheld device, the glow reflecting off her tense face. Their whispered exchanges just out of earshot spoke volumes, doubts about loyalty, fears of betrayal, and the growing sense that none of us could be taken at face value anymore. I stepped forward, clearing my throat to draw their attention. "Enough," I said, voice steady though my insides churned. "We can't afford this discord, not now. The map is changing, and with it, the dangers we face. If we fall apart, Cross will pick us off one by one." Silence fell as the truth of my words settled among us. I saw Lena's glare soften just slightly, Malik's fingers stilling on his notes, Marco's posture easing, and Jade lowering her device. The map lay open on the makeshift table, the delicate parchment alive with shifting lines and symbols that danced with the dawn's promise. "We need to trust each other," I continued, not blindly, but enough to move forward together. "Each of you brings something vital to this quest, your skills, your knowledge, your instincts. We're stronger as one, and weaker divided." Lena's voice, though still edged with caution, held a new note. "I'm willing to try. But the moment any of us jeopardizes the mission, there will be consequences." Harren nodded, his eyes alight with renewed purpose. "Agreed, let us proceed with eyes wide open, but hearts aligned." Marco spoke up, his gravelly tone firm. "We've come too far to let mistrust undo us now. Count me in." Jay gave a slight, determined smile. "Same here. We keep watch and keep each other safe." As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, I folded my hands over the map, feeling its warmth pulse beneath my fingers. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with peril and shadows. But in that moment, a fragile hope took root, an alliance mended, ready to face whatever shifting lands would throw at us next. Yet, beneath that hope lay the unspoken question hanging in the air. How long could trust survive in a world where nothing stayed the same, and enemies lurked in every shadow? The map was alive, and so was the danger. Our unity was our greatest weapon and our greatest vulnerability. I knew this night was only the beginning of the trials to come. But as leader, I would carry the burden of that hope and the weight of our fragile alliance into the uncertain dawn. The first light of dawn crept over the jagged horizon, filtering through the fractured ceiling of the subterranean city and painting the ancient stone walls in hues of gold and amber. Elias Mercer sat cross-legged on the cold flagstones, the ancient map unfurled before him on a wooden table scavenged from the ruins. The air was heavy with dust, and the faint scent of damp earth mingled with the metallic tang of old stone. He traced a finger over the faded ink, feeling the rough texture beneath his touch. As the sun's rays grew stronger, a subtle shimmer began to ripple across the map's surface. Elias blinked, leaning closer as new lines and symbols began to etch themselves into existence, weaving and redrawing with quiet purpose. The map was alive, its secrets revealing themselves only at dawn, and today it offered something unprecedented, a new path. One that stretched beyond the known depths of the city into an abyss of mystery. "Look at this," Elias whispered, his voice barely above the rising chorus of awakening birds far above ground. "The map's showing us a way deeper into the earth." Lina Dawes stood nearby, her dark eyes sharp and alert as they flicked between the map and the shadowed corridors beyond. Her posture was tense, muscles coiled like a predator waiting to spring. "Deeper means more danger," she said quietly. "Cross's men are tightening their grip. If we go down there, we're walking into the lion's den." Elias nodded, the weight of the decision pressing down on him. Yet the allure of discovery was too strong. This path could lead them to the cradle of the world's origin, the heart of the myth they had chased for so long. The map's warning was clear, though. This was no ordinary journey but a test, and failure could mean more than just death. Professor Harun Malik shuffled closer, his gnarled fingers delicately adjusting his spectacles as he examined the newly formed inscriptions. His voice, usually filled with excited speculation, was now laced with caution. "These symbols, they speak of trials of guardianship. The map itself is a gatekeeper. It doesn't surrender its secrets lightly." Elias felt a chill run down his spine. "So, it's not just the terrain we need to fear." "Exactly," Malik replied. "The map's power is intertwined with this place. If we falter, we could trigger traps or worse." Marco Silva, the local guide, stepped forward, his rugged frame silhouetted by the dawn glow behind him. His eyes scanned the crumbling walls until they settled on a narrow fissure hidden beneath a tangle of creeping vines and moss. "This is the way," he said firmly. "The map's path leads through here. It's been hidden for centuries." The scent of earth and ancient stone filled the air as the group gathered their gear. Heartbeats quickened in the cold morning air, mingling with the distant drip of water, echoing through the cavernous depths. Elias felt the weight of their mission settle over him, a fragile balance between hope and dread. "We move at first light," Lina said, her voice steady but underscored with urgency. "Every moment we hesitate, Cross's forces grow stronger." Elias folded the map carefully, slipping it into his satchel. "Then we have no choice. We follow the map, wherever it leads." Together, they approached the fissure, the passage yawning like the mouth of some ancient beast. The walls pressed in tightly, rough stone cold to the touch, illuminated only by the weak light filtering from above. With a deep breath, Elias led the way into the darkness, the map's glow faint but steadfast against the encroaching shadows. As they descended, each step carried the weight of history and destiny. The air grew cooler, thick with the promise of revelation and the threat of unknown peril. Every sound, the scrape of boots on stone, the rustle of fabric, the distant drip of water, was amplified in the silence, a reminder of their fragile existence in this shifting world. Elias's thoughts raced. What secrets lay at the end of this path? Could they uncover the truth behind the world's origin? Or would they become another forgotten story, swallowed by time? The map had brought them here, but it was their courage and trust in one another that would determine if they emerged triumphant or lost forever. Above them, the first rays of the sun pierced the surface, illuminating a world still caught between dawn and daylight, a world where knowledge danced dangerously with power. And every step forward was a step into the unknown. The air grew cooler and thicker as we descended deeper into the bowels of the earth. The narrow passage opening suddenly into a cavernous chamber that defied immediate comprehension. The flickering light from our torches danced across walls carved with symbols that seemed both alien and hauntingly familiar. It was as if we had crossed a threshold into a forgotten world, a cradle not just of land, but of legend itself. Marco's steady footsteps echoed faintly on the stone floor, a somber rhythm underscoring the gravity of our discovery. I adjusted my round glasses, trying to pierce the shadows that clung stubbornly to every crevice. The walls were alive with carvings intricate, deliberate, telling stories in a language that felt part myth, part science. "Look at this," Professor Malik whispered, his graying beard nearly brushing the rough stone as he knelt before a panel etched with concentric circles and cryptic glyphs. "This isn't just decoration, it's a map of something foundational." I stepped closer, tracing my fingers over a cold metal mechanism embedded in the floor beneath the carvings. It hummed faintly under my touch, a vibration that resonated through my bones. The air thrummed with a silent power, and I felt the weight of history pressing down on us. Suddenly, a distant rumble echoed through the chamber, dust trickling from the ceiling as Lena's sharp gaze swept the shadows. "We were not alone," she muttered, steadying herself against a pillar as the ground beneath us seemed to shift imperceptibly. "This place responds," Marco added, his voice low and cautious. "Like the map above, the land here isn't fixed. It moves, changes." Professor Malik's eyes gleamed with a mixture of fear and fascination. "These symbols speak of origins, not just of the world, but of knowledge itself. The map, its shifting paths, they were part of a larger mechanism, a balance maintained since time immemorial." My scientific skepticism warred with the undeniable evidence before me. The map I had once seen as mere parchment now revealed itself as a living artifact, a key to truths that transcended any textbook or lecture. And yet, with every revelation came the shadow of dread, the knowledge that such power could be a weapon in the wrong hands. The chamber's silence was shattered by another tremor. Lena quickly signaled for us to move, urgency tightening her features. The ancient stone beneath us groaned ominously, as if protesting our intrusion. We navigated carefully, deciphering symbols and activating mechanisms that revealed new chambers, each more enigmatic than the last. Time lost meaning as we delved deeper, the physical and intellectual demands wearing on us. Yet with every step, the path became clearer. The map was not merely a guide, but a living testament to the origins of the world's shifting nature. It was a testament to balance between creation and destruction, knowledge and power. As dawn approached, I paused to record every detail in my journal, knowing that what we uncovered today would redefine everything I thought I knew. But even as wonder filled me, a cold knot of fear tightened. If General Cross and his forces reached this place, the consequences would be catastrophic. We emerged from the chamber, carrying not just discoveries but the weight of an ancient legacy. The living map had led us here, but the journey was far from over. The cradle of the world's origin was only the beginning, and the true test lay ahead, deciphering the map's ultimate secret before it slipped beyond our grasp, into the hands of those who would unravel the fragile balance forever. And as the first light of dawn touched the horizon, the map's lines shifted once more, revealing paths yet unseen. The morning had broken with an eerie stillness, the kind that often precedes chaos. Elias Mercer and Lena Dawes were making their way through a narrow gorge fringed with jagged rock and shadowed by ancient trees. The living map, now folded carefully inside Elias's satchel, had guided them here before dawn, revealing a new path that promised answers. Yet the tranquility was deceptive. Beneath the silence, the pulse of danger thrummed with increasing intensity. Elias was scanning the terrain ahead, his sharp eyes flicking between the map's subtle glow and the shifting shadows cast by the early light. Lena moved cautiously beside him, her stance alert, muscles taut with readiness. "We are not alone," she whispered, her voice low but urgent. Before Alias could respond, the sudden crack of gunfire shattered the calm. Bullets tore through the foliage, sending leaves and dust swirling in a chaotic storm. Instinctively, Elias dove to the ground behind a boulder, heart hammering. Lena returned fire, her movements precise and practiced, a blur of controlled aggression. But the attackers were swift and well coordinated, their assault relentless. The ambush was no accident. Elias knew Cross's forces were closing in, driven by ruthless determination to seize the map and harness its power. But this was more than a battle over an artifact. It was a fight for survival, for the fragile knowledge that could alter the world. Amidst the cacophony of gunfire and shouted commands, Elias caught a glimpse of Lena moving to cover another angle. Suddenly, a group of mercenaries, led by the cold-eyed Captain Rourke, surged forward, cutting off her retreat. Elias's scream was lost in the noise as Lena was seized, her arms pinned and face set in fierce defiance. Their eyes met sharp, unyielding. In that fleeting moment, Elias saw not just a companion captured, but a piece of his own heart torn away. "I'll find you," he vowed silently, the weight of helplessness crashing down upon him. As the mercenaries faded into the underbrush with their prize, Elias remained crouched behind the rock, breath ragged, fingers trembling as he clutched the living map. It pulsed softly, almost as if sensing the turmoil, its surface alive with shifting lines and cryptic symbols that now seemed to mock his vulnerability. Guilt gnawed at him. He had promised to protect the map and those who guarded it. Yet here he was alone, facing an enemy that grew stronger with every passing moment. The loss of Lena was more than a strategic setback. It was a personal blow that threatened to unravel the resolve he had painstakingly built. Night fell with a chill that seeped into bones and spirit alike. Elias found a secluded clearing where he could think and plan. The flickering campfire cast dancing shadows over the worn pages of the map, illuminating the intricate details that hinted at the cradle of the world's origin. His fingers traced the faint, glowing lines, searching for a path away to reclaim what had been taken. Every symbol, every shifting contour became a puzzle piece in a desperate game of survival and sacrifice. Memories of Lena's unwavering loyalty and fierce intelligence fueled a growing fire within him. He remembered the moments of tension and trust between them, the dry wit that had cut through the darkest nights, and the steadfast pragmatism that had saved them more than once. "I won't let them win," he whispered to the shadows. "Not Lena, not the map." Plans formed rapidly, routes, timings, contingencies. He would need allies, cunning, and every ounce of his cartographic skill to navigate the labyrinth of shifting lands and hostile forces. The pursuit was no longer just about discovery. It was a race against time and fate. As dawn approached, Elias folded the map with care, his eyes scanning the horizon. The living map's surface shimmered, revealing a new path, one that held promise, but demanded courage and sacrifice. With a steadying breath, Elias rose, steeling himself for the journey ahead. The cost of pursuit was now painfully clear, but so was his purpose. The map's secrets and Lena's fate were intertwined, and he would face whatever darkness awaited to protect both. The chase was on, and failure was not an option. The forest around him seemed alive with whispers and shadows as Elias moved swiftly, guided by the cryptic pulses of the living map. Every rustle of leaves, every distant call echoed with the tension of impending confrontation. He was no longer just a seeker of knowledge, but a guardian driven by desperation and fierce determination. Hours turned into days as he navigated treacherous terrain, evading patrols and deciphering the map's ever-changing pathways. The weight of his promise to Lena pressed heavily upon him, sharpening his focus and igniting a resolve that burned brighter with each obstacle. In moments of quiet, memories surfaced: Lena's sharp laugh, the way her eyes narrowed when assessing danger, the unspoken trust that had grown between them. These recollections were both balm and torment, fueling his quest while reminding him of what hung in the balance. Ilias's mind replayed the ambush endlessly, dissecting every second, every decision. Could he have acted differently? Was there a sign he missed? The questions threatened to ensnare him in a web of doubt, but he fought hard to remain steady. The living map, ever shifting and mysterious, became his beacon in the darkness. Its glow illuminated hidden paths and secret chambers, revealing clues that hinted at Lena's possible location and the tactics of their pursuers. Yet, with each revelation, the danger intensified. Cross's forces were relentless, their reach extending like a shadow over the shifting lands. Ilias knew the coming days would test not only his intellect and courage, but the very limits of his endurance. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ilias paused to rest beside a trickling stream. The cool water soothed his weary hands as he unfurled the map once more. The delicate lines pulsed softly, as if alive with anticipation. "Lena," he whispered, voice thick with emotion. "Hold on, I'm coming." The map revealed a narrow passage through the mountains, a route fraught with natural dangers but less guarded by Cross's men. It was a gamble, a desperate hope that this path would lead him closer to her. With renewed purpose, Ilias set out under the cloak of night, the stars overhead silent witnesses to his solitary march. The weight of the map and the memory of Lena's fierce spirit propelled him forward, through shifting shadows and uncertain dawns. The cost of pursuit was steep, but the price of surrender was unthinkable. Ilias Mercer was determined to pay it in full. The battle for survival had transformed into a battle for hope. Every step Ilias took was heavy with the knowledge that failure meant not just loss, but the unleashing of a power that could reshape the world in terrifying ways. As the first light of dawn painted the sky, Ilias stopped on a ridge overlooking a sprawling encampment Cross's stronghold. Somewhere within its fortified walls, Lena was held captive, a prisoner of ambition and cruelty. Ilias's pulse quickened, but his voice was steady as he spoke to the living map. "This ends soon." The path ahead was perilous, fraught with uncertainty and sacrifice. Yet, with the map as his guide and Lena's fate intertwined with his own, Ilias Mercer stepped forward, ready to face the darkness and reclaim the light. The chase was no longer just a pursuit of knowledge. It was a fight for survival, for trust, and for the fragile hope that even in the shifting lands of the world, some truths endure.